If you're a foot lover or someone with a kink you keep hidden, and you're tired of living more behind a screen than in your real life, stay with me, because this is not one of those videos where I tell you sexuality is bad, that desire is evil, a sin, or the goal is to become pure. That is not my message. My message is this: real confidence is not pretending your desire doesn't exist. Real confidence is stopping the hiding, facing life, yes, making mistakes, but learning from them, and then becoming someone who can actually trust himself. By the end of this video, I'm going to show you why hiding is the real problem, what real confidence actually is, and why the 14-day self-command reset is the right next step if you're ready to stop living split in two. So stay with me. Alright, before we get into it, like the video and subscribe to my channel. And if you get any value from these videos, consider supporting the show with a small donation on Patreon. That helps me create more long format videos that are shared publicly here on YouTube. And if you haven't downloaded the Kink Shame Exit Kit yet, start there. It is linked below. Okay, a lot of men think the answer is to make sexuality the enemy. And I really don't agree with that. Because, listen, sexuality is not bad, guys. Desire is not bad. Oh God, what do I have in my eye? Fantasy is not bad. And arousal is not bad. Being a foot lover is not automatically a problem. That is just human. And human beings are sexual beings. We are wired for attraction, for curiosity, for longing, pleasure, intimacy, and expression. So I'm not here to tell you the solution is to become less human. I'm not here to tell you that your sexuality is dirty and a sin and that the answer is to crush it or to start repenting. No, the issue is not your sexuality itself. The issue is unconscious sexuality. The issue is when desire is no longer something you carry consciously, and when it starts carrying you, when adult content becomes your default coping tool, when stimulation replaces your awareness, when fantasy becomes easier than real connection, when secrecy becomes easier than honesty, when relief becomes more important than reality. That is when the problem is no longer desire. When the problem just becomes lack of awareness and self-command. Because if you think about it, sexuality is actually something beautiful. It can bring energy, play. It makes us feel alive. It can bring intimacy, connection, honesty, passion, devotion. But without awareness, that same energy can get pulled into compulsion, into hiding and fragmentation, into habits that quietly make your life smaller. So the solution here is not to hate yourself and your sexuality. The solution is to become more conscious inside it, to know what you are feeling and what you are reaching for, to be aware when you are escaping instead of relating, to know when you are numbing instead of living, and when a pattern is taking more from your life than it gives. That is where self-command comes in. And again, self-command is not repression. It's not becoming cold or pretending you don't have desire, or acting like your full range doesn't exist. Self-command is the ability to stay awake inside your own experience. It is to feel desire without immediately obeying it. Sometimes it is to feel discomfort without instantly trying to escape it. To have a kink without collapsing into shame or compulsion. To be responsible for your own behavior in a sexual context. And to have respect for yourself and the woman you desire, right? To carry your sexuality like an adult instead of being dragged around by it. That is what mature confidence looks like. We're not talking here about less sexuality, but rather more awareness. Not being less human, just having more command. And that's what's the most important. Because watching adult content is not the deepest problem either. The deeper problem is when it becomes a protected substitute for life. So let me explain what I mean by that. A screen, whether if it's your phone or your computer or your TV or laptop, the screen can give you stimulation, all right? Yes. But without much real world cost. There's no real vulnerability in that. There's no exposure. There's no human interaction. There's no awkward silence in the room. No risk of saying the wrong thing and having to sit with it. No need to regulate yourself in front of another human being. In other words, it is just controlled. And listen, if you think that's good for you because it's more comfortable, well, it's not. When too much of your sexual energy, emotional relief, and fantasy life stays in that controlled space, you stop building the kind of evidence that creates real confidence. You stop getting real data. And real data is how people grow. How? Exactly like this. You may say something awkward, okay? That's data. You misread a situation. Data. You get rejected. Well, that's not the end of the world. That's also data. You come off weird. That's feedback. So what should you do? Hide behind a screen forever? No. You adjust and you grow. And then you try again with more awareness. Again, that is growth. That is how real confidence is built. Not by staying safe long enough to feel temporarily in control. Confidence comes from lived experience, from facing reality, from surviving the friction, from learning that one mistake does not define who you are, and seeing that feedback is not proof that you're broken, it's just information. That is why so many men are missing. They want confidence without contact with life. They want certainty without the exposure. They want self-trust without proof, and want the reward without the friction that actually creates it. It just doesn't work like that. That is why so many foot lovers are stuck in the same story. It's because a lot of you think the problem is that you have a foot preference, and when in fact the problem is that your desire, it's mixed with shame and the secrecy, and you're afraid of being judged and afraid of being misunderstood. You're afraid of looking pathetic, creepy, weird. And that fear that this part of you ruins your chance at love and intimacy or being taken seriously. So instead of integrating that part of yourself like a mature adult, you start splitting. One part of you wants closeness, self-respect, and maybe a partner, right? Maybe a real sex life and some honesty. while the other part keeps running towards what feels comfortable, safer, faster, and more controlled. That split destroys self-trust because, again, the issue is not just what you consume. The issue is the moment life gets uncomfortable, you run away from growth and do anything possible to disappear. Then when you finally do step in real life, what happens? You feel helpless, you feel exposed, you feel awkward, you get awkward, you say the wrong thing, you get feedback you don't like, and then you feel embarrassed. And instead of saying, good, that is data, let me adjust and course correct, you start freaking out and hide again and turn the whole experience into proof that you cannot change. And that is a trap. But the trap is not your sexuality or your desire, not that you like feet, not that having a preference for feet has a stigma around it, or that women don't understand you. The trap you're stuck in is avoidance, is your fragility and your victimhood. The trap is living in a way that protects you from actual growth and then wondering why your confidence never becomes real. And listen, I say this with compassion because men were never taught how to stay in the room with discomfort, unfortunately. They were just taught to hide it, to numb it, to deny it, or just collapse under it. But real confidence doesn't come from being immaculate or perfect. Real confidence doesn't equal never feeling weird. It is not never making mistakes. Making mistakes is actually something good, something positive, because that's how you learn. Real confidence is becoming solid inside your humanity and being able to carry your full range without being ruled by it. Being sexual without becoming compulsive. Being open without becoming reckless. Allowing yourself to be imperfect without turning every mistake into an identity. And getting feedback from life to course correct instead of using it as a reason to just disappear and then vilify the world for asking you to grow. That is maturity. And that is what makes a man attractive. A whole adult feels different. He's present, grounded. He's capable of being honest and taking a hit without folding, without getting triggered or defensive. He is capable of adjusting and again course correcting and of staying with himself even when it gets uncomfortable. Again, discomfort is not your enemy. That kind of confidence makes you unmistakable, and that is what a lot of you actually want. You don't want to not like feet. Why would you? Or make the world bend to accommodate you. You want to feel normal, to stop hiding. You want to be able to trust yourself and to trust that you can be happy and fulfilled. And I know that a lot of you guys also want to just stop wasting energy. You want to be able to focus. You want to be able to build a life for yourself, to work on your passions, to finally want to give yourself a real chance to work on those goals. Again, many of you just want to build real intimacy. You want to be able to talk to your partner about this. You want to love yourself so that others can love you too. And just face real life like a champ instead of constantly retreating from it. That is exactly why a random moment of motivation is not enough. And why relying solely on your willpower doesn't work. You don't need another night where you swear things will be different. You've tried, I know, but it just doesn't work like that. Because what you actually need is structure. It's a system. You need a container that helps you interrupt that loop, regulate yourself, see your patterns clearly, and then start building that daily evidence in the opposite direction. And that is why I created the 14-day self-command reset. And that is why this is the right solution for you, because it tackles the issue in a different way, with a different approach, something that you probably haven't tried before. And I'm not trying to change who you are at the core. I'm not trying to remove your humanity. This reset is trying to make you stronger, steadier, and more whole. And it exists because a lot of you don't need to be less sexual. You just need more awareness inside your own preferences. And you need more honesty inside it and more structure around it. And self-command, all right? When the pull begins, you need a way to stop going unconscious in the moment, to stop the automation. You need to start choosing. And that is what the reset helps you do. It gives you a short, focused structure, so you stop living from urge to urge, from mood to mood, from shame spiral to shame spiral. So you'll get a workbook, you'll get a daily tracker, and you will get some incredible audios that I recorded just for you, plus a couple of videos for guidance. And most importantly, you'll get evidence that a new possibility actually exists for you, and evidence that you can now pause, that you can interrupt the automatic pull. You get to create that evidence that you can stop hiding so quickly, that you can stay present through discomfort, and that you can return your energy to real life, that you can focus on what is truly important for you. And also that you're just not a lost cause, but a work in progress who sees the victory in every and each small win at the end of the day. This is how self-trust comes back to you. Self-trust comes from actual proof. And I will guide you to build that for yourself. The workbook helps you pull your patterns out of the fog and onto paper so you can actually see exactly what is happening. The tracker helps you stop living in vague feelings and start seeing real progress. The audios help you regulate, reset, and return to yourself faster instead of spiraling. And the structure of the reset is designed intentionally as very simple because a lot of you don't need more theory. You already know everything you need to know. You already know that you need to do just something different, that you need to take some form of action, and that you need some positive repetition. But also something simple enough to actually follow it, and strong enough to interrupt the old patterns. And that is why I created this. And honestly, one reason a lot of people stay stuck is not because help doesn't exist or because they are helpless. It's because deep down, they don't think they deserve support. They overthink. They say they need to think about it. They are afraid to invest in something that supports that very transformation they actually want. But meanwhile, they spend more money on content. Or most importantly, they spend time and they don't even realize how much that actually affects them, how much it affects their life they want to build for themselves, those goals they want to achieve, and those dreams they want to finally put their energy into. So that's why I'm saying time is priceless. So I really want you to ask yourself, how much is your happiness worth? How much is your self-respect worth? How much is it costing you to keep hiding? How much is one more year of the same loop worth? How much is your focus worth? The 14-day self-command reset is less than a random custom video some of you get. And unlike a private escape, this is here to help you build that structure that you always needed, so you can prepare to show up and face real life like the champ I know you are. That is the difference. And because this is the launch, I gotta tell you, the cart is only open for a very short time, and also at the founding price. But I must warn you, this price will not stay here forever. This is actually the only time I'm offering this program at such a low price. So if you know that this message is for you, don't just sit there and tell yourself you need to think about it while your life keeps shrinking in the background. Start with a free Kink Shame Exit Kit if you need the first step. Work with it, see that it works for you. But if you already know you need more than a free interruption and you are ready for real structure, reserve your spot for the 14-day self-command reset at the link in the description. That will help you stop hiding. It will help you rebuild self-trust and return your energy to real life. I'm not trying to make you less human. I want to help you become more awake, more honest, more resilient, and more self-commanded inside your own humanity. I want to help you be more grounded and more integrated, more capable of real intimacy, but also more capable of making mistakes, which leads to growth and therefore real confidence. And comment real life if you received the full message. And also tell me in the comments, what would you start building if you weren't leaking so much time and energy into compulsion? I can't wait to read your comments. I love you guys, and I'll see you in the next one.